Hey guys, how you doing today? Um, I just want to give an update. Things are not going well for me right now. My depression seems to have taken a hold of me, and it's been really rough. Um, I've been staying up all night, sort of in self-destructive behaviors. I've been isolating myself. I've been writing less, communicating with my friends online less, and just feeling sort of hopeless. Um, and sort of not reaching out to people. Because in the past, I found that when I've reached out to people, it's made a difference and it's helped me. And I just chose to sort of go into self destruct mode because I don't know, I wanted to sabotage all the progress I've made. And I feel like when I live in that depression, I'm not helping myself and I'm not helping anybody else. I feel like it's like you're stuck in that sickness. The sickness takes over and you just wallow in your depression. You stop taking care of yourself. I mean, you stop leaving the house. You stop getting out of bed at a decent hour, showering, all that stuff. It's awful. It's terrible. And I've not been taking care of myself. And I can feel it now. Like my eyes are red, and my mind is fuzzy, and I've been manic, and I don't know what the hell's going on. So I'm really concerned, and but what's wonderful is that I have all this support. And I talk about this support a lot. I know it probably gets old, but it's important. And so I woke up today and I said a little prayer, and I said, God, just help me through this depression. And at that moment, I wrote something. I wrote something on my Facebook about, you know, what I was feeling, how the depression was making me feel. And you figure you get a couple comments, maybe a few likes. I got a whole bunch of likes, a whole bunch of comments, a whole bunch of messages, and it really makes me feel a whole lot better. And it makes me realize that I'm not alone. I'm not the only one going through these things. A lot of people are. So my advice for people who are going through depression is talk about it. It's uncomfortable. It sucks. It may make other people uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, you're going to feel better by by being open about it and saying, hey, you know what? I have depression. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Um, I'm not going to hide it because when I hide my depression, the sickness takes over. And once the sickness takes over, it's very difficult to get out of that. It becomes habitual. It becomes a habit. You know, especially staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning, surfing the internet. Um, it's very lonely, and I feel disconnected with people. I feel disconnected when I do those things. On one hand, I want to connect with people, and I want to relate to people, but when I engage in those behaviors, all I feel is disconnected, and I don't want to talk to anybody, even if it's online. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to volunteer. I don't want to go to school. I just want to live in that misery. And as especially this week was really bad. I was very, very manic and crazy, and I said to myself, "Wow, this is really familiar." And I realized that around 2005, like now, I didn't have a job, and I would literally stay up till 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning every single day, and I was like a zombie. And I had allowed the depression to completely take over, and it took a long time to start living a somewhat normal life. It wasn't until I got a job eventually that I had a schedule and I was around people. But it's so easy to get stuck in that depression. It's so easy to get stuck in that rut. And and then when I went to my volunteer thing, I didn't feel right. I felt like just the shame of suffering from depression. I didn't feel myself. I didn't have the same confidence or the same motivation. And but now I feel better. I mean, the other thing also is that my writing suffered. I stopped writing for, it's been a week, and maybe I've written once or twice, when normally I would write every single day. So today was a much better day. I got up, I said a prayer, I wrote a poem about my depression, and I continued a story that I'm working on. So I thought, okay, that's progress. Again, I'm not going to allow the depression to take over. I'm going to fight it. And I know I have tools at my disposal that I can do. Therapy right now is not an answer because I can't afford it, but I am on medication, and that keeps it from being totally out of control. At least I can go to bed at night. But there's just certain things I need to do at a certain time. It's 10:30 now. In about an hour, I'm going to take my medication and I'm going to go to bed. Regardless of what I'm doing, I'm going to go to bed. And I'm trying to wake up around the same time every day. I know I need to exercise. I know I need to volunteer. There's more days that I can volunteer. I talked to one of the leaders, and I just told her that I would be doing more of that. So, because that volunteer work is like my saving grace to me right now. It's the only positive thing I have going, and it's hard to enjoy it when you're depressed. It's hard to smile, and sometimes I think people can sense that there's something wrong. So depression is just an ugly thing, and it's like no matter how much progress you make, sometimes it rears its head. And what I'm doing now is something that I've never done before. I've never sat down on video and talked about my depression because I don't like myself in this place. I don't like how I look. I'm not shaved. I'm just rough right now, and I really am struggling. And the only thing I know how to do is to connect to some audience out there, and hopefully that's what I hope is that somebody can see this, maybe who's even in worse shape than I am, and say if that guy can do it and pull himself from depression, then I can. Because I mean, it's more than helping me; it's helping somebody else. I never planned on making videos or being an advocate or being part of a mental health community. It just happened. God brought me to this. I'm a believer in God. I'm a believer that things happen for a reason, and God has brought me to my calling to help people. So everything that I experienced from the depression to my brother's death to bullying to my experiences at church has all brought me to this, to be able to help people. And that's what I intend to do, and I don't know, I hope things get better because I don't like it. It hurts. And it hurts to admit that I'm struggling so much and I'm engaging in behaviors that I don't like, that are self-destructive, and it's like the sabotaging. It's like somebody who's a drug addict and they sabotage their recovery. Because I thought I was doing really well, and then I just slipped as soon as I lost my job, and I started staying up later, and using social media more, and using the internet more, and it was keeping me up to the point where I was a slave to the phone and a slave to the computer. And it's just no way to live, and so I hope and I pray that things get better. I appreciate the support. It means a whole lot to me, and I'm gonna do the best that I can, and I hope that whoever's watching this, you're doing okay as well. And then if you're not doing okay, anytime you want to message me, or anytime you want to write about it, or reach out to anybody, don't be afraid to do it. Because, I lost my brother to suicide, and depression is a serious thing, and he didn't talk about his shit, and I'm doing that because I don't want to end up like him, and I feel like those that do take their lives are the ones that don't talk about it. I'm more worried about the person that doesn't talk about it than the person that does talk about it. So talk about it, even preferably with a therapist or a counselor, but find somebody somewhere that's safe to talk about these things, because it's a serious issue. And I wanted to touch on one last thing, and I wrote a blog about it. But, I was checking out webcams of girls, which of course is not a great thing in a manic state, which is part of the self-destructive issues I have. But it was a regular webcam. It wasn't anything crazy like the other ones, but the person mentioned go kill yourself or go hang yourself. I don't know what it was, but I don't know if she was talking to somebody in the chat or she was, I don't know how it came about. But I had this really angry reaction because my brother had killed himself. And I wrote a whole blog about it, and what I'm trying to convey was that don't ever tell somebody to kill themselves. It's not funny. It's not a joke. Some of us are in bad states of mind, and not all of us are as strong as this to be able to talk about it. And so when you tell someone to kill themselves, it's not funny. It's not cute. It's serious. It's two things. One, if somebody is on the edge and they do kill themselves because of your words, how do you live with that? You thought it was funny, and then you realized this person really was suicidal, and then they took their lives. The other thing is there's a lot of us who are survivors of suicide we've lost loved ones, and it hurts and it triggers us. It's no different than making a rape joke or a Holocaust joke or a racial joke. It's not funny. So before you speak, think about what you're gonna say, how that's gonna affect the other person. Because you can either make the world a better place or you can make the world a shittier place. And I try to make the world a better place. I try not to say hurtful things to people, especially people I don't even know online. And I know it's out of ignorance, and I know that I responded. I told the person they were a fucking idiot. And maybe that wasn't the best response. But it's a knee-jerk reaction, and I think people... some people say it out of ignorance, and some people, I don't think, give a shit. It's half and half. But it's just to think before you speak, because you never know what the person in front of you has gone through. So I'm hoping that and praying that this will pass. And I'm grateful though for all the support, because I think that for the first time in my life, I can say, hey, you know what, I have bipolar, or hey, I have depression, and people don't blink an eye. And they give me all the support. I got tons and tons of comments and messages today. And it just made me realize, okay, people love me. So, and God's working in my life. So that's it. I'm praying for the best. Thanks.